Hey guys, excuse my tardiness. My phone decided to pass away, and then the charger decided to grow legs as soon as it was time to get on. But, anyways, thank you guys for joining our tea time. For those who don't know me, my name is Shantel Sanchez. My girl Jazz is about to join us very shortly. Then we're gonna have my partner from Passions for Elevation join in, and then we're also gonna have our elevated coach, Miss Sol Bautista, and then we're also gonna have Lucas here, who refuses to go to bed. So you're gonna hear him in the background. All right, so bear with me, y'all. It's been a day. All right, so let me let Jazz in real quick. All right. So today Yeah. Today we're gonna get very intimate. Hey girl. So sit back, grab a cup of something. I don't care if it's tea, tequila, water, something. Um yeah, let's get started. How are you, Jazz?
I'm good. The lighting in my house is awful. Oh my god.
It's all right. Don't worry. I have the lamps that like sprout and it's like a bunch of light bulbs. They're all pointing my way and blinding me, okay?
Yeah.
We gotta do what we gotta do. How's Avery?
He's good. He's winning Mario Kart in the back. He's like in his video game era or whatever.
I love that. I remember when I was in that era. I used to have a Nintendo DS playing Mario Kart left and right.
Mhm. I'm gonna see if I could turn on a different light because the light's bothering me. But I'm
Okay,
here.
sounds good. Let me see how I can invite Laurie. Oh, you guys, don't even look at my hands today, okay? Because the way that I had to rescue Lucas from falling off his stroller
Oh.
because he doesn't listen, and I just had to be like, "Whew." So
That's the
this one
fun
went
age.
flying.
That's the fun age. My
That's not
lighting
the
in my house
funny.
sucks too, Jazz.
Oh my! It's so bad, but whatever. We here.
We must all invest into what's it called? The ring lights this year. I need
Yeah,
to get another
I have,
one.
but it just doesn't. I don't know where it is. I don't know.
That's about right. Hi, Wanny. Lucas. Right. So we have Lori here from Passions for Elevation. She is my partner in crime. Can't tell you which crimes. In our impart in our empowerment company. Why we brought her here is because she also focuses on body, mind, and soul enrichment. And we're working on a lot of great things in that department, bringing more mental health services and education to women, focusing on overall body healing, and really just getting back in tune with our divine femininity. So very, very important. And we're gonna have Soul. I'm actually gonna give the mic to Lori, for you to introduce Soul. You can talk about her now or when she gets here. It's totally up to
I'll
you.
wait till she
Introduce
joins
yourself.
us. I'll wait till she
Okay.
joins us.
Well, in the meantime, talk about yourselves. Let the people
Is
know
it
who
okay
you
if my
are.
camera's like this or is it weird? Okay. It's because my light, this is where my light is. Here we
I am
go.
not sober, so please do whatever you want. My
Oh,
plus
okay.
left a long time ago.
I'm excited for Soul to join us, especially for this topic. I think that she is the perfect person to speak on it, becoming a new citizen here in America, also having 20 plus years in psychology. So I think that her opinion and voice on this topic is going to be really great and important, especially for all the things that are going on right now. It's such a touchy time and it's very, very hard for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And I feel like the energy is very, very heavy. So that's why it's so important for people like Jazz and Miss Lori, who's also going to be licensed very, very soon. Miss Jazz going to be licensed very, very soon in their specific departments. Okay, we're rooting for y'all.
Congratulations.
It's important for us to be the voice for these individuals, because there's an anxiety cloud happening, and some people don't want to talk about it for the sake of, oh, you don't talk about politics in your business, but it's not even politics anymore. It's
humanity at this point.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why the conversations are needed. Um, I will say and speak on my own behalf, because I wasn't born in this country, but I've been here since forever. At this point, I'm a Bronxite by nature, right? But for me, uh, it's one of those feelings where I'm like, how dare I, show up on social media as a content creator, show up, as a person who's selling to my audience, because if you're in business, you're selling. Like, let's just be for real, okay? Um, how do I show up as a specific character in these times? It's almost like I don't want to seem like indecent, but part of it is okay, life does go on, and then the other part of it is like, well, this is one of those moments where you do have to stop and reflect, and you do. Thank you, Lucas. And you do have to acknowledge. You do have to acknowledge what's going on. If there's anything that has been like ringing in my head is like, listen, it's like, if you don't stand for something, you'd fall for anything. And this is a time where you stand up for your people. You become the voice that not many people have, or not many people are even brave enough right now, for good reasons, to have. you know Lucas agrees, but how do you guys feel about that?
I definitely think it's touchy for people to talk about right now. And I think people are in a place where they're scared to have an opinion or scared to speak up on certain things for the fear of backlash of what could happen to them, or the realities of what our day-to-day lives contributes in certain ways. So I think it's just still hard, but I think right now more than anything, it is important to have these conversations to like break that barrier and to like create these spaces for people to share their fears, share what's going on in their minds, like have that place to talk about it.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that in addition to that fear, right, I think that's kind of part of the issue is that it's something that's impacting people. And even though there's that societal fear of like, if I speak up, maybe I'll lose my job, or maybe I'll lose followers or respect or whatever the case may be. But I think the importance of talking about it and shedding light to it, similar to mental health, right? Like when we struggle, we don't want to talk about it in an open light. But on the flip side of it, like that aspect of community is needed, especially more so in times like right now where there's like, ooh, it's ghetto over here. I don't have a light, I don't have a phone hold to work. But I think in general, I think that just the aspect of community and spaces such as this, it's important because that togetherness is really what's going to help heal us, what's going to help bring resources and knowledge and things that we otherwise wouldn't know. And we would just only know what's happening and not have the tools to do anything about it. So I think it's a really good time to have these conversations, even if they are uncomfortable and even if there is some component of grief attached to it, because it's a needed conversation. And if we don't have the right tools to help ourselves, let alone help our, fellow community members, we're all going to suffer in more ways than one.
I agree.
I do agree as well. You know, I don't know. It's just such a touchy topic. Like, it just like almost irritates me to even talk about it. Like, because
The fact that we're even sitting here having to have this conversation right now in 2026 is
right.
actually kind of crazy, to the extent that the reasons why we're having these conversations, because of the level of fear that's being put into the communities and the
Right.
uncertainty. We're a country that, I was in the military for 6 years. I never thought in a million years like I would be seeing people just getting gunned down, their families ripped apart right in front of our eyes, like it's nothing.
Yeah. And that's
And
the
and
thing.
some of the things, like the issue, that the incident that happened with the woman that was killed, some of the responses from people were so desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
And since, like, when did that, we're still human beings. Like, when did it become like, oh, well, she deserved it? Like, this is a
Right.
woman in a neighborhood, like, where children are walking down the street.
Right.
Like, that's kind of insane to me, you know? So I think
Right.
it's really important that we actually open up these conversations, and as uncomfortable as they are, teach people how to have that empathy, how to have that community, and how to like be there for one another.
Yeah. I think for me, one thing that kind of boggles my mind, it's like we're in an age of social media. Like we all saw the footage. I don't understand how you can literally get up and fix your mouth and be like, "Oh no, but XYZ happened." Did we see the same thing? Because
Yeah.
there's multiple perspectives every single time. You know, and I understand AI. I understand propaganda. But what my eyes see and what my head interpreted is not what you decided to get on the podium and say. So it's just like it
I
it,
think
it,
that's
it creates
another
a huge WTF of like what is going on, you
I think it's
know?
a good point that you brought in the social media thing too. I think that's a major part of our mental health. I think controlling
Yeah.
the things that we allow access to our brains to see, especially in times like this.
Yeah.
Not saying completely like ignorant is bliss, like completely don't look at it and like turn a blind eye to what's actually happening, but also be mindful. Like, I
Yeah.
have to wake up in the morning and make sure that I do not open my social media first thing in the morning. Or when I do start to see a habit of negative things on my feed, closing my feed and like walking away from that and not fully letting that affect my mental health and giving me anxiety and making me feel down and giving me those feelings of guilt, because maybe that hasn't affected my life directly, but I'm seeing all these
Yeah.
other people be affected by it, and then I feel guilt. So I
Hmm.
think in controlling that and being mindful of like your social media intake and what you're seeing and
Yeah.
hearing and
I
viewing, I think is important.
I think to add to that, it's also important to be mindful about the validity what's that word? I guess the accuracy of what it is that we are consuming, because we live in a time where it's easy to put something out on the internet and it be viewed as 100% accurate, and you know some of it is like a thing, and control things. And I think that when we limit, like you said, those interactions, or we limit that consumption and kind of have control of our feeds, and I think it goes into what I wanted to highlight tonight of grief and joy being able to coexist. And with that, it's important to recognize that it's okay to still enjoy the things that you enjoy while informed and while advocating for our community members and showing up for others and holding space for their pain, even if it's not something that we necessarily struggle with. I think as long as we are all on this earth together, there's like a sense of responsibility that we have for being there for one another, right? And no matter what religious background you come from, right, like we are all on this earth. And I think that being able to just at least have empathy and care for what's happening is important without losing ourselves. Like there's a balance that we have to find, and I think sometimes that can be hard when you are overly empathetic or you want to do more, right? And I think that sometimes it's okay if we need to pause. It's okay if we need to take a break from social media or put a timer to it. Same thing that I use with clients of like those negative thoughts or like sunking in your emotions, right? Like there eventually has to be a moment where you say, okay, I've had enough for today. I'm now going to redirect my energy into something that I need for my self care, for my well being. Because same thing we always say with motherhood, right? If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our babies. If we're not showing up for ourselves, we can't show up for anyone else in the world. And so that balance is really key, and really putting our coping skills in place and taking time out to enjoy our families and the luxuries of what a lot of people unfortunately don't have right now, and being grateful and having that heart of gratitude is really key, um, in the midst of finding that uh, middle ground of what's important and what's also important for us.
I
Yeah.
agree. Hi, Soul. Welcome.
Hi. My apologies for being a little late, but here I am.
That's okay.
Mhm.
All good,
I'll
girl.
let you introduce her, Shantel.
Say that again.
Do you want to introduce her?
Phone on you.
Welcome. This is Sol Bautista. She is amazing. She is from Guadalajara, Mexico, and she has been practicing psychology for over 20 years. She's one of my favorite people on the whole planet. And I'm glad you're here with us because I feel like you have the perfect perspective for this topic. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been since I got the invitation, I've been thinking and jotting down a lot of things on like what has been my experience and what are like a lot of the things that I am finding myself that I need to do so that I can keep capacity to continue giving, right? I feel like as a psychologist or as a person that has a lot of empathy for other humans, finding the ways to refuel you and like to keep you in a good headspace is like extremely important. And I loved what you were saying about how do we continue cultivating joy, right? I think one of my favorite neuroscientist talks about how the three most important things that happen in our brain when we want to stay healthy happen like one during when we sleep, one when we move, and one when we cultivate awe. Like those are the top three things, like literally for a healthy brain. Sleep because that is when the digestion of information happens in the brain. Like literally, your brain goes through all of the memories, emotions, learnings of the day, and it kind of files them in like in the proper filing cabinet that it needs to go, and then it keeps the relevant information as a new learning. So like literally, all of that is happening while we sleep. And then movement, the importance of that is that we learn to reconnect to our whole body, right? I know that there's so much research about how right now sedentarism is actually killing more people than smoking cigarettes, which like that's insane to think about. But because technology now gives us the facility, the ability to sit at work, like working from home and like just sit all day, if we don't make ourselves move, like literally that translates to this stagnation, right? Like, and I think right now we cannot be stagnant. We need to stay active. We need to do things. And then lastly, this aspect of cultivating awe, which I think is like something that I love because it makes me think of children. I know that the three of you are mothers. I am not a mother, but I worked in education for many
She's
years. So
lying.
I,
She
I
adopted me.
yeah. I worked in education for 12 years and I watched children, right? Like, and I watched children witnessing awe, like when the wind starts making a wind roll, like when a leaf is like just floating around and just doesn't land on the floor, and or just even when something that just catches their eye that is the first time that they notice it and they're just like in this wonder of like, oh my gosh, I just like saw this. And I feel like as we grow up, we lose that ability, like to really think about that. And I know that because the moments that we're living in right now, it can be very overwhelming to think that everything is wrong, all of it is bad, all the things are just going to hell. And how do we pause and how do we adjust that purview to that way of looking at things, right? Like, how do we see the beauty in a leaf that is fallen and a leaf that's coming out? How do we see the beauty in the color of the fruit that we're eating? And I think that I've been like holding on to that. I like recommending or talking about things that I personally practice and I personally do, that now I've done it long enough that has become a little more automatic for me. And I really would love to invite people to do that. I think when we think so much about what is like this ritual, this grandiose thing that we need to do. And when we have the opportunity to do it, that's great to do. But daily in the little things, to put our attention to the beauty and the wonder and the positivity, I think that's how we regain our humanity and remain connecting to all the people that are around us, you know. We are part of nature. So the more that we can have this awe for what we witness, we can have that compassion for ourselves, you know, like every single one of us has our own journey, our own pains, and we have to be thinking about that. Um, I could talk for many hours about this, but like I just think from the neurological perspective of that, like those three things, like sleep, movement, and look at the world with wonder. Um, yeah, and thank you so much for having me and for creating this space. I think it's so important to have uncomfortable conversations on purpose, you know?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Jad lead. Jazz lead.
Um, yes, I agree with everything that you had said. And I do think it's important to kind of not lose hope in the world in times where everything feels a little hopeless. Because I think that with enough awareness that everyone has gained over the last few weeks, months, and even over the last few years, it feels like I feel that there is a lot of positive change that can come from the awareness that we have with the access that we have. And now that we're in a generation where we're learning to speak up and be fearless and kind of take charge of our lives and our futures and advocate for everything that we want our little boys and girls and like the kids of the world to experience one day, I think that there's so much power in, you know, taking in the information, doing something about it, and also that mental health component of it, and like a lot of that kind of mindfulness that you had mentioned, I think is also important because with everything that happens in the world and in our lives, because we're dealing with our trauma, right? And we're dealing with the trauma of the world and like the people that we love and care about and our neighbors. Um, it's easy to become very disconnected from our body, and a lot of what I practice at work is really that aspect of coming back to yourself and really putting into practice the things that help you and the importance. Baby, you have to give me a second. Okay, one second. Yeah, when I finish, look, we're chatting.
He wants to join.
He has lots of opinions. Wait till Lucas starts yapping. Forget it.
Yes, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Oh, trust me, I know. As I get older, it doesn't stop either.
I guess like yeah, like to piggybanking on that, I think you're absolutely right. I think um me mentioning like what I just said, like I don't have one, two, three, or four or five children. I have about 280 that I've touched. And I consider any and all children my children. Like I think when we go back to our roots of the indigenous tribes and still in many areas where indigenous people still gather, the children are our children. It's not my children, it's our children. And I absolutely agree with you. I was just yesterday having a conversation about hope, right? Like um I I see the moment that we're living, but if we zoom out in history, we have come so far, right? And I feel like when we just focus on the period of history that we're happening right now, we lose sight of how much we have actually gained. And then I think it's very important to remain conscious of that with the privileges that we now have because of so many people that fought before us, how do we weave it into the new future so that yes, like my hope is in the children and the new generation. I all of you young women, um I just turned 43 years old, right? Like, and when I think about it, 43, when my grandmother was 43, um, they were still in the women's rights movement, right? Like in the history of my grandmother, not many generations ago, just my grandma. And how do we understand that portion of what can I do, even if it's a tiny little thing, focusing on the things that we can actually do, rather than in the overwhelming amount of things that we cannot change. There's things that we can, and we have people watching, like all the children are watching and the youth is watching, and for me, I agree with you. I think it's very important to remain conscious that we have like evolved, we have made progress, we have done good things, and never losing sight of that. Yeah.
I think that's a really good reminder, actually, because when you sit down and you start getting into your brain a little bit too much, or you doom scroll a little bit too long, um, you start going into this cycle of all the negative things that are happening that you almost forget how far we actually come, like you just said. And there's something that I've kept top of mind since the pandemic. Um, and it's was something that I think Gary Vee had inspired, and it was a matter of, history is always watching. Like the stuff that's gonna be in the next textbooks is happening right now. And to me, that was like, whoa, like moments, like you said, because it is true. Our grandparents, our parents, they were probably not even aware that what they might have been going through was about to be in the textbooks that we read now, or in the literature that we read now. And believe me, the stuff that we have just seen over the last 7 years is going in plenty of textbooks, if
Yes.
not already plenty of Netflix, series. They're on that for sure. But I say this to say that this is why it's important to have these type of conversations and to create these type of spaces, because okay, great, yes, history is always watching, but what are you gonna do about it?
Correct.
Like once you're the grandma or the rich auntie, if you will, right? Like, what are the stories that you're going to be telling your family members or your children or your nephews or your adopted whatevers, or the people that listen to you, your mentees, your students, or the people that just like stay in tune with your legacy? What is going to be said about you, you know like, I know sometimes people even put fear into me, and they say, like, you got to be careful, and I get it, but I've been careful since the moment I gained consciousness of my status in this country, you know
Correct.
and at some point it's like, well, how careful can we be? Are we all just going to be careful and then stay complacent, stay quiet, stay idle, stay small? It's a horrible mentality to live in, of that nobody look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me not even dress a specific way. Like, I told that to a friend of mine a few weeks ago at this point, and she didn't understand. We come from different backgrounds for sure. She's not a Latina woman or a black woman, so it wasn't understood. But my joke was that I feel like I have to dress less Dominican because I live in a very one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. That's just where I am in this season of my life. And I made a joke because, like, we've had notices of them being around here in this community, so maybe one day I look extra bummy, I look extra Dominican, like that's the wrong day. But although that is a joke, it's not a joke.
It's the reality.
It's
And
the
I think
reality
these
of, hey, don't
conversations,
even look my way.
mhm, that's why
That
these
accent has to
conversations,
go. Don't
yeah.
stutter. Ningún 13. Okay? Like, it's none of that. You speak Spanish? No. And that's horrible. Okay? Am I an elite
It's so
person? I'm
sad
not, but
that
it's
although we
horrible.
talk about how far we have come, that statement. So when my mother and my parents moved here to the U.S. from Puerto Rico back in the 80s or whenever they moved here, and I was born in the 90s, my siblings and I, they did. My mother said that she didn't teach us Spanish because it was better for us to speak proper English, to
Right.
speak like we were from over here and not from over there, which has changed. Now it's better if you're bilingual, but just to think that we're falling back into some of the old
Right.
behaviors and things in history,
Right.
that you have to be careful walking down the street and be careful talking Spanish because you're scared these ICE agents are going to come, like
Right.
that's awful to think about. And I think, and another thing I wanted to touch on is when you guys were talking about, like we're kind of setting an example for the youth. Like the youth are watching all of these
Mhm.
conversations, the things, and I wanted to bring up an example of that. I don't know if you guys saw here in Texas, the students that walked out of school and they are protesting, and that just is like a really incredible thing to see. That it is sad because they, at this point now, it's something is wrong, and kids are seeing something is very wrong, but they're standing up and they're making a stance and they're exercising their rights to be, to walk out and protest. And I think that that's like a really beautiful thing to see too, is that it is influencing the youth. So all of these conversations, all of the advocacy, all the things that we do is gonna make a change, and we just have to keep doing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the nurses over here were on strike because they felt like there wasn't a need to have these individuals in the hospitals. It's like this is supposed to be a safe space, like that's just outrageous. Even oops, do not fall off this bed. Even this footage came out months ago. Um the family or the woman that got attacked in the office, and it's like, okay, now we're preaching, do it the right way, do it the legal way, but now you guys are in the facilities of people trying to do it the proper way, so it's like, where do we cut the bullshit, you know what I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah. But I wanna add to what you were saying, Chantel, about the fear, right? Like I think um one of the most vital emotions that we have because it keeps us protected. Like it's wired in the brain to keep us safe. But because we are humans and because we live in society and because there's rights and there's human rights above citizenship rights, like this aspect of remaining in fear is what continues disconnecting us from one another. Like I think that it is human nature to react when you see something inhumane happening. And when fear makes you not act, it becomes very like dissonant in the brain. Like it really hurts your brain to not react. And I think that yes, like figuring out what is the best way, what is the most powerful way, what is a way that I am going to legitimately make an impact and not staying quiet, right? Because I think I posted something a while back, but it shook me so much to see this post that said, um, "What can I do? It's just me." And then it said dot dot dot, said 7 million people, right? And I think that that is so, so powerful. When we think that we're just one person and like we're just alone with our fear or alone with our love or alone with our rage or alone with whatever, we're not alone. We just need to voice it. We just need to give it space. And we need to have the people that are feeling the same thing get connected to that, because it's not only like part of our nature, but part of our responsibility to the generations before us and the generations that are coming after us. So yeah, I think we can be quiet when we need to think about what we're gonna say, and then when we figure that out, we need to be loud. We need to say it loud.
I agree. I
Mhm.
agree.
And I think the final note that I'd like to add to that is, since we've talked about how far, our society has come in positive ways, even though a lot of times it feels like we're going backwards, with change comes comfortability, right? When we put that into perspective of our personal journeys, right? I think just on a grand level, it's important to remember that nothing good comes easy, nothing worthwhile comes easy, and change comes at the cost of discomfort. And it's okay that we're all uncomfortable right now, and I think that that's a good opportunity for us all to challenge ourselves in different ways. If we've never, advocated for something, if we've never spoken up for something, like, I think that these give us the strength to practice this in our own lives as well, but on a collective level. And I think that the more we can do it, the more confident we can become in all aspects, but I think when we can speak for the voiceless, it makes the greater impact. And I really want to highlight, knowing your rights, whether you are a citizen or not. We all look like people that are in ICE detention centers, and I think it's important to just know what's legal, what's not legal, have safety plans, and really just check in on one another, and really just remember and going through something, and just that reminder to be kind and to do what we can with what we have, and what's available to us. And if there isn't something that we can do because it's not available to us, create it. Like, that's what social work is for, that's what community is for. And so I just wanted to challenge anyone listening, and even all four of us here, and as I say this, I remind myself, to just get uncomfortable, and there's another side to this, but we need to be uncomfortable.
I couldn't agree more. I think you touched on a couple of things that I've been, as a psychologist, very mindful of since I reactivated my work. I was working in education, and then in 2020 during the pandemic, I had some professionals reach out to me and say, "We need to give you clients because you were one that always talk about change." I've wondered so much about the resistance that humans have with change, the resistance that is like, we need to have the things the way that they've been doing, like, because that's the good way. Like, the old way is a good, like, this is like this necessity that we have to hold on to certainty. That I agree with you that this moment of full uncertainty, everything is true and nothing is true. And there's legal things that are inhuman, and there's human things that are illegal. And so how do we, like, question or wonder about our code of ethics, our code of values, and, like, how do we perceive, continue supporting each other? I think, individual trauma requires individual healing, and collective trauma requires collective healing. And the practices of collective healing that have been around for millennia is art and culture. And when we think of that, is connecting to that part of us that is part of this collective. When one hurts, we all hurt. We just might not perceive it. We might not fully feel it. We're not aware of it. But when one hurts, everyone hurts. And I like that you said about, like, being proactive in how are we gonna show up, because I in this hopelessness. I mean, as a Mexican immigrant, right? Like, I was born and raised in Guadalajara. I learned English when I was 25 years old. Moved to Texas and in 2009 to 2010. I had to learn that I was a person of color. And I had to learn that speaking Spanish was bad. And I had to, like, this, not learn it to hold on to it, but I had to learn to how do you perceive that level of different upbringing. And right now for me is, that is where the majority of my work comes from. Like, how do I remain true to the love that I have about my identity, and how can I uplift other people to do the same, with the language that is going to help us continue building. I think, in therapy, I use it a lot as a language of, when you're triggered, you react. When something is a trigger, but you have healed something, you can pause and then respond. And I think it's such a massive difference when we react than when we respond. And I feel that right now we are being targeted to react. Like that is why we're being pushed in so many ways and pulled and moved in this way of I need you to react. So the more we have this discomfort and this like growing pains of like how do we imagine something different, that's that pause to how am I going to respond strongly, because reaction doesn't come from a place of wisdom. It comes from a sense of urgency. And when we stay in our survival mode, that's all we're going to do, react and react and react. And I don't think that anybody has the capacity to be in reaction mode for too long. You dissociate.
No.
And
It
so
has negative effects on your body too. When you live in that survival mode, high cortisol levels, you're eventually gonna, your anxiety, health wise, you'll decline. That's
yeah, and we need to stay strong. We need to stay healthy and strong. Yeah.
And it's such a funky topic because in one sense you're 100% correct. It's how far can I take it? You know, I mean, like the thing with the Instagram and then the monkeys is like, okay,
yeah.
y'all dragging it, y'all poking the bear, you know. But there's so many bubbles here in this PowerPoint. Okay, that it's like, all right, how far can we take it? You know, what's it gonna take for y'all to react? You know, and then it's like, okay, you guys react, and then we're gonna be worse. You know, and then it becomes a matter of, well, how much can we dish out and desensitize, if I'm saying the word correctly? You know, like it's not
Desensitized.
normal that we log in and the first thing that I see, it's either somebody that just got assassinated in Iran, wherever it is, literally, and like I was baffled just a couple hours ago. I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm turned
Mhm.
off. You know, but then it becomes a, well, you can't even say this because, you know, it's not happening to you. And it's like 100%. But I don't think I shall log into Instagram and see a deceased woman with her pants down and, whoa. You
Yeah.
know, or the next person on the next slide is the man's head blown off because we're trying to prove a point. Like, these are things that, granted, I've seen from when I was a kid and had no business being on Facebook.
Hmm.
Facebook used to be wilder back in the day, but now it's like this is an everyday thing. Like we have way too much access to seeing things that it's not even normal for a human being to see and have to digest on a normal basis. Like this is normal. You know, like even for me, like I've caught myself with me and my ADHD is like I'm doom scrolling all the time. That I have to work on for sure. But as I'm doom scrolling now, let's say on threads, it's like, what are we seeing? The files. You know, now we're getting into the pictures. Now we're getting into you know, and it becomes okay, this is becoming normal now. You know, we're
And
seeing all this
we got to
information
remind
and you
ourselves
become numb.
to control what we feed our brains,
Yes.
how much, the amount we do. And I think that more so advocates are more important in this time right now than
Hmm.
anything, to help people digest what they're seeing and to also process it, because this isn't going to stop. These are things that are going to continue to be shown, things that are happening. So we have to utilize the proper tools and the things, community and
100%.
all these conversations in order to get past this and to make it through what is actually going on right
Yeah.
now, friend, in the world and our communities.
Yeah. And I think this is maybe where you guys can also chime in and Jazz when she comes back as far as those coping mechanisms. And it's like, how do you find that balance of one continuing to exist but also not living in denial at the same time? You know, I think like it's fair to have both at the same time. um I just firmly believe is that okay, like we see all these things, but also have to keep in mind that social media is social media. Some of these
Mhm.
things are fed, some of these things are created with intent to start
Correct.
disrupting the human mind. You know, now we get into harvesting energies, and this is so many things that it's like we're not even gonna get too far deep into it for the sake of existing freely here. You know, before they come and knock on my door. But shoot, I might have to delete this live later. But you know, it's like, how do you just continue to not stay delusional, but also not let the anxiety take over your whole
I can
like
definitely give you guys
mental.
tools that I use when I start my day because I watched some of this stuff and I've actually cried sitting in my bed, starting my day, and I'm like, wow, this is the first thing I'm seeing. And I had to make a conscious choice. So when I wake up, I do not open my social media. I make a conscious decision not to start my day like that. I get my brain ready for the day and whatever the day is going to throw at me. I make sure I go outside and I ground myself. I sit in the sunlight, I ground myself, I like get myself prepared for the day. And I think that that's like a really good way to start your day, especially with all the things that are happening, because we don't have control right now, but we can control how we show up
Right.
and what we contribute. So I start my day like that, and that's just something I'm actually consciously doing every single day just to be able to make sure I can cope with the world around me.
Yes, ma'am. I gotta start doing that too. But quite frankly, Lori's the first person to text me at all days, all nights, all hours. So I can't avoid my phone. I'm gonna start texting Jazz instead.
I
Oh my
think
goodness.
think
I,
to add to
I
this conversation of skills, I think for everyone it looks different, and the mindset always remind because I'm a crisis clinician, and I respond to crisis calls, is that every day your coping is going to look a little bit different. So it's good to kind of have, you know, the framework of like, this is my mental toolbox, and you know, one day I'm going to have to pull this mechanism, and the next day I may need to do this, and sometimes we might have to swap it out, right? We get the new tools, we add, we remove, and we kind of just figure out what works for us, because certain things expire, you know, like meditation used to work for me, and now it's really hard for me to stay focused on, you know, so now I've had to gravitate towards other things. And I think that's the exciting thing about, you know, really doing the work within yourself and that inner work, because you start to learn more about yourself, and you also realize that you're constantly evolving. So every for me, oh my gosh, boy, mom. Ew.
You're fighting with him and my tripod this whole time.
um so I think to that point, it's important to recognize that every month, every year, every season of our life is going to look different. And so that's why I was talking to you earlier, Shantel, about doing that developing coping skills workshop, because I think it's really important, you know, because therapy can only go as far, and you know, not everyone has like a spiritual tool to turn to, and you know, it's really important to have some tools within ourselves to be able to manage the things that become too heavy for us to carry sometimes, or you know, too debilitating, and having us feel all dysfunctional and dysregulated. So I think it'd be really good, you know, to talk further, because this conversation can go on and on, but I think it'd be nice to really, oh my goodness. You are not allowed to be in the house when mommy's doing anything like this ever again. That's nasty. Are we having a serious conversation? But I think that this conversation can go on and on, but the important thing is that we keep showing up and we keep the conversation going, and you know, we break it into small parts, and we connect, and we do everything that we can to make sure that we're able to really help in very proactive ways going forward. And the more knowledge that we gain, and the more tools that we have to share with the world and people.
well, I think you wanted to say something.
I agree with that. I agree that the coping mechanisms kind of shift and like change. But touching actually in something that you said, like meditation, for me, sitting meditations is something that is close to impossible. So I've learned to do moving meditations, and I feel like it's something that I've just kind of landed on, like because I did. And going back to like, um, how do we handle our feed? I really love the way that you put it, Laurie. Like, I think I started last April, if not last March. So it's about to be a year that I just started blocking and 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 unfollowing and blocking. And I can tell you that I I now it's very rare when something ugly, like really ugly shows up.
Hmm.
I really have curated my Insta feed to be exactly what I need it to be. Like new neuroscience research, new changes that are happening at the legislation in
Yes.
Finland, and how Costa Rica is about to be 100%
Yeah.
renewable energy. Like, I literally wake up to see the beauty of the world on my feed. And it's about to be a year, but it was not like maybe I needed this, maybe I need to stay informed, maybe I need, like, the world is informing me right now. This is like
Yeah.
I know the things that are happening. It will come to me on a private message. It will come to me in an article. It will come, like, I am gonna learn about the horrors
Right.
of the world. I don't need to have it on my hand.
Hmm.
And so I think that yes, I agree. How do we curate the different coping mechanisms that we have? But those two things for me of figuring out, because when I'm in rage, I cannot sit down and hum and like like, no.
Yeah.
But I can walk outside and make it a thinking about my breath and thinking
Hmm.
about how I feel my blood and thinking how my face starts getting red. I think, like, how do we um create new mechanisms that become our coping mechanism
Hmm.
that works? That would be one for me. And then that of curating, like, block the shit out of everything,
Yeah.
because it will come to you. The horrors of the horrors will come to you. But I agree so much with you, Chantal. Like, um I've been sent by some people like, you have to watch this video of this thing that happened. I'm like, no, I don't have to.
Right.
Thankfully, I am not in a war zone. I don't live in this immediate thing. And I need to remain strong until I am in that situation. And then I will have to figure something new.
Right.
But those two things for me has become like, and I, to be honest with you, I don't even think I want to add any of it. Like, if I need to read the news, I will have to log in the computer, log into this account. Like, my feed needs to give me good stuff, amazing stuff, beautiful stuff that other humans are doing in the middle of the shitstorm that's happening. Um,
Agreed.
that's like things that I've done. Yeah.
I think that's also a good thing to touch on too, because I think it's so easy for people to get tied into that space where they start looking at all the negative things. Excuse me. And they get stuck in that. So it's important to remind our friends too and people around us that bring up these conversations and did you see this and did you see that and this and this and that to change that too. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
people can really get sucked into that negative space of continuously watching, and then it spirals and they get into a whole spiral, downward spiral, and it can actually have a really negative impact on like our mental.
Yeah. Yeah. One last thing that I will say to that is like, in 2022, between from 2022 to 2023, um, I lost three friends to suicide. And this week, I just learned of other two people that committed suicide. And I think that this awareness that we're bringing and this call is for checking in on the people that are strong, checking in on the people that are smiling and going for, like checking in on everyone, because our private headspaces, we don't know how they are doing. And just a word or a smile or something positive can change someone's life. So um, just very aware for me of how deep it runs when the hopelessness just takes over, you know?
I agree. I think that's important, something important that we definitely need to be mindful of for our friends and our community, our neighbors
Yeah,
around us.
I definitely do agree with that one. And one thing that I also get reminded of is that we also have to participate in our villages, you know. Um, I gained that perspective from a mom's perspective, but that seeps into friendship, family,
Hmm.
it could be your job, you know, whatever the case may be. And this is something that's also, I feel like, very important for people who do have I want to say mental health challenges, and I'm speaking even for myself, right? Because there's sometimes it's like, you know, you get invited to a place, you don't even want to go out, you know, like you're tired, or sometimes it's really difficult for me to even leave my house, and it's like, dude, like, you used to go outside all the time, what's your problem now, you know? And just that reminder to still participate. But then if someone also is not participating in their village, be that person to bring them right back, and check in and say, hey, what's going on, what do you need from me, do you want to hang out? You know, I feel like there are times where people don't see the cues, you know, don't see the little cries for help, even it might not seem like it, but we are living in some very heavy times right now. You know, it's good to just check in, see how people are doing. You don't know even where their mindset might be at, or their headspace. Some people are not even aware, you know. Um, and yeah, you know, this is a time where we stay closer as much as possible. And try our best. Like, you know, like Soul said, it's like we're not actively in a war zone physically, you
Hmm.
know, thankfully, but spiritually, it's very present. You know,
Yes.
emotionally, mentally,
Yes.
unfortunately, you can't 110% avoid it, you know, because then now you're being super delusional. But I do feel like just a little bit of that delulu. Sometimes I gotta be this delulu, like, because you have to find some joy within this at the same time. You have to find some peace as well, and some gratitude, some appreciation that, hey, you're not the one that's going through it right now, you know. But
Be
always be prepared.
mindful. Yes.
Be very mindful, always be prepared, and just do whatever you got to do just in case, you know. um you know, have any documentations ready, because it don't even matter if whether you're from here or not. Believe me, one of my teachers from high school a few years ago, the first time that came in office, um you know, she's a citizen Puerto Rican from here, and they 100% picked her up. So imagine that, you know. So
Yeah.
just be prepared for whatever. Doesn't matter what it is, just be prepared for whatever. Think of the worst, live for the best, but just be ready, you know. And keep your prayers up, journal as much as possible, release a lot of that
Hmm.
internal dialogue as much as possible. um you know, try to pay more mind to the things that you are ingesting and the things that you should not be digesting at the same
Yeah.
time.
That's actually
um
a good way to say it.
you
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that?
I like that a lot.
Don't steal it, don't put it in the shirt.
I am. I'm
I'm just
I'm putting
kidding.
it somewhere.
um yeah, it's very important, you know, just watch what you're taking in and watch what you're releasing. I think also, thank you, Soul, you don't know how much you helped me recently, with what you said about the reacting versus responding. That's something that I kept top of mind when I did take therapy. um I need to check myself. Okay, that's it, that's all. I need
Hey,
to
that's the first
check
step. You
myself.
recognize that there's some work that needs to be done.
There's
So
always work that needs to be
that's
done,
half the battle right
but
there.
sometimes we do gotta check ourselves. Although it may feel valid, you know, because because cause and effect is a real thing.
Mhm.
But as a woman, as a child of God, we have to we have to react less and respond more. And sometimes I might just not even respond at all. Okay, so I'm gonna leave
Sometimes
that pin
things
right there. Go back
aren't
to the
in need of
perfection
a
of this
response.
conversation.
Sometimes things aren't in need of a response.
If I'm not responding, run. Okay, I'm
I,
gonna start reacting real fast.
I panic if Shantel doesn't answer my text messages. I'm not gonna lie. Well, this is really good. Thank you guys for putting this
Yes.
together.
Thank you so much for
Definitely.
having me. And yeah, I feel like I want to open also this bit, like to reach out, to like actively letting you guys know, like, yes, like reach out and I guess say like whatever it is that you're feeling. And sometimes I've gotten better at asking, like, do you want me to just listen or would you like for me to say anything to you?
Hmm.
Because sometimes I just need to tell you that I'm about to lose my shit and everything is bad and everything is horrible. And I just needed to say it, like
Yeah.
I am okay and I'm going to be okay and I'm having stepping stones that I'm going to follow. But saying it is important, I think um, this aspect of sharing is also a witnessing, right? Like, and a way of hearing myself. How do I walk my talk? How do I really put my money where my mouth is? And how authentic and in resonance I am with. Cannot expect people to be in this daily growth if I am keeping everything together and perfect and I'm doing all the right things and I'm doing like we are humans and we're experiencing this and the more we build language to talk about it, even when we just need to say shit, is good. Um, yeah. So
Yes.
yes, thank you so much for creating this space and for listening and for sharing.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Thank
This is
you,
good.
I want to put
Jazz.
emphasis on the reach out, especially for anyone that took the time to listen to this in its entirety. I know it was long, but if you don't know what resources are available to you, if you are struggling in any way, or the anxieties and pressures, we are all background in some
Mhm.
profession. So don't hesitate to let us know what it is that you need. And even if it's just having a friend in community, even if it's, hey, I need you to pray with me, I need you to sit with me, I need you to validate my emotions, because all the emotions that we talked about that come with what's happening in the world are valid, and we're all feeling different things. So whatever that need is for you, always express it, right? The closed mouths don't get fed. I've had to learn that
Mhm.
way of sitting in silence for so long. And when we hold in our emotions, when we hold in whatever it is that we're not expelling, it does damage. So I really want to emphasize that. And I thank you for bringing that up, Soul. But reach out and never feel like a burden or ashamed, because you never know where one conversation can take you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Reach out to us.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
ladies joining us and having
Thank
some
you so
tea
much.
time. Um, Don Julio joined me instead. There was no ashwagandha.
Hey, it's Saturday. It's okay.
There was no ashwagandha in this cup. I'm sorry. It's for the tea. Um, but next time we'll bring some tea. I'll bring my raspberry tea. I don't know about y'all. I don't like too many
Ah,
flavors.
I love tea. I love all tea.
Yes.
What we talk
Jasmine.
about next?
Yes. But yeah, we should do this again soon. And then, yeah,
Yes.
we'll talk
Yes,
about our
ma'am.
beverages.
All right. Sounds good, ladies. Good
Thank you guys.
night. Happy
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Saturday.
Jazz. Have a
Bye.
good one. And happy
Bye.
Benito Bowl. Okay?
Oh,
Oh
yes.
my goodness, I know. Everybody enjoy it.
Oh, even better. It fits right in with today's topic. This shall
Oh
be
goodness.
fun.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what he does actually. I'm like
Oh my god.
just waiting to see
Yeah.
his
Oh yeah,
performance.
and supposedly, I don't know if she accepted the offer, but supposedly Cardi B was supposed to join him as well, and she just had a whole controversial moment because she wore the Dominican heritage dress, and
On
everybody was like,
SNL.
"Mm-hmm." So it's getting spicy in here. Let's
I
see.
love it. I love to see it.
Let's
People using
see.
their platforms.
My goodness. All right, you guys have a
All
good
right.
night. Love
Good
y'all.
night.
Have a good night.
Love you.
Bye bye.
Bye.